You are listening to Vitruvian Man with Jesse and Josh.
Welcome back to Vitruvian Man. As usual, I'm joined by my Nilla Josh.
What's happening, homie?
How was your week, man?
Oh, fine.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you took a long time to say that.
There's really nothing going on.
Did you have a good weekend? I think you went away for the weekend or something.
Yeah, I went to the city and had some fucking amazing sushi.
Oh, that's right. Birthday sushi.
Oh, yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. For 4 seconds, I'll get to this. Did you see Trump talking about Israel the other day?
Oh, God, no.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but Trump said, I gave billions and billions to Israel. And he's basically counting on Jewish people to vote for him because he gave billions to Israel. It's like how you spot a racist is they treat a race like a monolith.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of Jews don't support Israel. A lot of Israelis don't support Netanyahu.
Yeah. Right. Fucking A.
So it's hilarious that
he
thinks...
Classic jackass.
Yeah, so
Classic
our buddy
jackass.
Fucky McFuckface in the news yet again.
Friend of the pod.
Yeah, friend of the pod. But let's get on to more fun things. Taxi Driver.
Man, what a good movie.
All the animals come out at night. Someday a real rain will come and wash all this scum off the streets. You talking to me? Talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here. You're only as healthy as you feel. You're only as healthy as you feel.
Like, such a good movie. I forgot how good it was, and like the way it's shot, the feel of it. This sounds insane, but I wish I could have lived in New York in the 70s because that was just fucking dirty New York.
The Wild Wild West.
But there was so much good art coming out of that town at that time.
A lot of good music.
A lot of good music.
Yeah.
Great art. Like, just overall, it was super hot, creative hotbed.
I know that it's crime's been cleaned up a bit and the city's been cleaned up a bit, but it's also a lot more touristy now.
Yeah.
So I think, it would have been more special.
It's not the same
in
thing.
the 70s.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's different eras of New York that I would have loved to have lived in, and 50s New York.
Oh yes,
would have been a gold mine. Same thing, super creative, a lot of art, a lot of music coming out at that time, a lot of movies.
Well, if you think about like how kind of whitewashed the 50s were in some ways, and it's a super racist time in our history, but
Sure.
like a place like New York with such diverse population would have been a bit of an oasis,
a true melting pot
in some ways.
Yeah,
because cities where lots of races kind of meld together, there's less racists. They just are.
Yeah, it just
right?
it has to be.
Yeah, they're friends with these people and working with them, and they can see how cool they are, and it's like So that's the thing. Like Atlanta, supposed to be a cool city. Not really excited to visit the suburbs of Georgia, right? Or the small towns.
The rural parts of Georgia.
Yeah,
no,
I'm good. No thanks. What religion are you? Atheist? Does that count?
Yeah, do you kill atheists around here? I don't know. Somebody's getting fucking strung up.
Yeah, but Taxi Driver is insane. I mean, every time I see it, I think I'm just blown away by how good it is, and it's like. It's funny that little things you kind of forget about, even though you can remember almost every scene in the movie. Like, I forgot how good the score was.
Yeah, that score is amazing.
And it's a character in the movie.
It is. Well, I feel like there's two driving characters are New York and the score. Like those are such a huge part of that movie. It would not be the same thing without either of those things.
It's funny because the score, although it gets very serious and obviously very heavy sometimes, there's a lightness to it sometimes, and that's a relief because Travis Bickle is such a despicable person.
Yeah.
And that the score is like it's not comic relief, but it really is kind of, it's salve a bit.
It takes a little bit of the edge
how
off.
intense the movie is.
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful and it's jazzy and it's, it's not just, a lot of films in the 1974 in that period would have had maybe more source music or more like kind of rock as their basis.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I appreciate a real orchestral score, I think.
Apparently, somebody told Scorsese that they thought that it was too reminiscent of noir movies from the 40s and 50s. But his response was, "This. I mean, that's part of the lineage of that movie. This is a noir movie. There are no good people in this movie.
No.
Like there is not one really good person in this movie.
No,
it
they're
is
despicable.
truly, yeah. I mean, the only one is maybe the Sybil Shepherd character, but her character is so caught up in his fantasy of who she is that you really don't know if she's that person, right? It's like, because this is a first person narrative.
Yeah.
It's definitely coming from Travis Bickle's
Right.
brain, whatever's going on there. So you really don't know. I mean, when she appears in white, is she actually wearing white? Is she the angel in white? But with that, we can move on. But it's so interesting to see, like, there are no good men in this fucking movie.
No, they're awful.
And all the women are either put on a pedestal and completely unattainable, or they're whores, right? That's the Madonna whore thing for this whole thing.
Did you say that though he was criticized because it was too noir, or
he
just
was
an
criticized?
observation?
There was a criticism that the score was too noir.
Come on, man, dude! A great score is a great score.
It's a great score, and I think that the criticism was revolving around the alto sax, because that was that's a big feature of the whole thing.
Sure.
But apparently that was, what's the name of the guy who did the score?
Oh, Bernard Herrmann.
Bernard Herrmann. So apparently the guy that ended up working that had taken some of his music and reworked it and slowed it down, and then played it back to him for these things, and he was like, "Oh, that's great."
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So now I had read that poor Bernard Herrmann died only days after the film was done, but you said hours?
Hours, as far as I understand.
Wow.
It was like they he handed over the score, went out to dinner, and died.
And we have to give some credits to Bernard Herrmann. Citizen Kane.
Dude.
Insane. Psycho,
yeah.
I mean, so many Hitchcock films. Worked on the Psycho sequels, which is interesting. Never had occurred to me they'd get him. He worked on It's Alive, an exploitation
That's
film.
so good.
I think that's the thing about composers. They just work.
They just want to
So
work.
every composer's got weird credits in their, like, we said that Angela Badalamenti, Lynch's composer, worked on that Christmas Vacation movie.
Christmas Vacation.
So I think they just work. And so they'll always be weird movies in their portfolio.
Yeah.
So It's Alive. That's a weird movie.
That's a bizarre one. And the sequels.
Yeah. That blew me away. I knew he worked on It's Alive. I didn't know he worked on the sequels.
That's fucking hilarious.
You didn't see Sisters, right, Brian De Palma?
No.
Oh, man, you got to see that.
All right.
Love that 70s Brian De Palma. Coincidentally, Brian De Palma was supposed to direct this film.
I was just going to say, and he regrets. That's like one of his regrets is he didn't get to direct it.
Yeah, and I'm kind of going all over the place here, but I guess Paul Schrader, the writer, might have directed that movie, or after De Palma couldn't do it, there was a universe where Schrader could have done it, but he's like glad he didn't do it. He realized he wasn't ready to direct when it was all said and done.
That would have been a lot for a freshman project.
Oh yes, yeah. So this is as you said earlier, a very racist movie. We can't overlook that.
Yeah, all the way through.
Yeah, from start, and they actually, the funny thing is they tried to tone it down. The pimp played by Harvey Keitel was supposed to be black. Scorsese had the foresight to go, okay, no, we can't just have every character in this movie be black, right? Obviously, that makes it even worse.
And that's how it was originally written. Everybody that dies in the end was black.
So the police officers would have been black too, because he kills.
No.
Wait a second. No, that's right. The cops come in at the end. My bad.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
That's right. The cops come in at the very end. That great crane shot.
Dude, that is such an amazing shot.
Have you seen like the behind the scenes where they show the rig?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's an amazing shot.
Yeah, there's a few dolly moves in the movie that are really cool. There's a scene where Travis Bickle is calling Sybil Shepherd's character, and he's at a payphone, and the dolly moves away from him.
Yeah, moves out into that alley or that hallway shot.
And it might have been Ebert, it might have been someone talking about this film, and they said, like, Bickle's kind of flaccid attempts at romance are so painful that the camera doesn't even want to be there for it.
That's hilarious.
Because really, that dolly move there serves no dramatic function as far as like.
It does. Scorsese, because I was listening to this,
Yeah.
him do the talk along.
And what did he say?
He said that basically he wanted to create unrest and unease at every chance that he could, and that move, that shot where they moved from him on the telephone, which was weird because there was 3 different telephones there when he was on the phone. I was tripping on
totally
that, the old handheld jobber, then the phone, and then the pay phone. I thought that was just an interesting thing. Anyway, so that shot where they pan over and then move out into the hallway was there to make the viewer feel like anything could happen, like a bomb could go off, he could explode, anything. So it's just all those things were definitely there to create unease.
I guess I didn't mean to say that it meant nothing. I guess what I'm saying is a character doesn't walk down that hallway to be introduced.
Right. No, it's
so it's a very subtle move for the camera to make, and it does. You're right, though. A lot of the movie with the score and with the cinematography is very much putting you ill at ease. Right. Yeah. You're meant to feel uncomfortable.
You're totally
right. So I mean, let's start out obviously super racist, but also we've been talking about this last week that, like, obviously this movie is essentially the template for the white rage that was to come with mass shootings and with guys like Bernie Goetz, who shot those young black men in New York. But like,
because that was right. That was just a few years after that,
I think
right?
so.
That was 1980,
something like that. So like only 6 years after,
4 years after it was released.
But it's crazy that this movie essentially captures what's a thing that's not a phenomenon yet, which is the white male, impotent, incel, rage-filled kind of lunatic that we know so well right now.
And I mean, we were talking about this. I wonder if that's a much deeper archetype than I mean, putting a gun in their hand is a different. It's kind of a purely an Americana take on that. But it seems like that's really an ingrained archetype.
Right.
Just the disaffected young man with no real reason to be ragey, but is ragey nonetheless.
Right.
And it just seems like such a deep archetype. I don't know where to go with that, but that's just something that struck me when I was watching it.
The other day when I was watching this, my son said, "What are you watching?" I said, "A romantic comedy." And now the reason I say that, now as heavy as this movie is, there's a thing he says to Sybil Shepherd that's been said in a million other movies that are not heavy, but I needed to talk about it. And this isn't a direct quote, but essentially when Bickle first meets Sybil Shepherd in person at the campaign headquarters, he says something like, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen."
Yeah.
Now, that's not a question. That is an ownership. He's saying, therefore, you're going to be with me now. Like, he's not asking her permission.
It's a claim.
He's saying, I can't believe, let's face it, I think most men in the world would have said she was beautiful, right? So that's not really a unique thought.
It's Sybil fucking Shepherd.
But think about how many movies where that statement, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," is a stand-in for basically an entire courtship. Like, "Oh, you're mine now. I've just decided that since I find you attractive, now you have value and you're mine now."
I mean, so I feel like all of his interactions with women are some variants of that. So that line is indicative of how he feels about women in general. I'm paying attention to you. Now you're mine.
Right.
I'm giving you a compliment. I am taking you out to eat.
Yes.
Now you need to be with me. I mean, it's that incel assumption of ownership or something being owed to them for paying attention to them.
So that's the thing, right? It's owed. Yeah. It's not, I'm going to take a shower, get a haircut, wear nice clothes, and be a good person. It's, I'm going to crawl to my mom's basement without a shower with some shitty clothes on, show up at a date, and then get upset that she doesn't find me attractive.
Milady.
Right? Yeah. That privilege, that of ownership, that exists in so many movies and therefore reflective of society.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that was an interesting take I heard on one of the things that I was listening to about the movie is this, that his sexism and misogyny is so deep and so fucking onerous.
Yeah.
Like and it's insidious because it's presented in a way that it's normal. So like his whole interactions with her up until he takes her to the fucking porno.
Yeah. And then is surprised that she doesn't want to be there.
That is so good. But yeah, but the whole interaction with her up until that point could look normal in a way.
He's not, before the porno theater date, he appears normal.
It appears
mostly.
It appears normal, but his motivation is so not.
No.
I mean, it's completely looking for ownership.
Yeah, he sees her as an object that will be his.
Yeah.
In much the same way that he treats Jodie Foster's character, meaning he's not seeing her as a sex object, but he's basically dictating her. You can't be here. You can't do this.
Yeah.
You got to leave. You got to go back to her parents. He doesn't know what she went with her parents.
Yeah.
And we find out at the end of the movie that they probably weren't awful people, but like young women oftentimes flee abusive homes and become prostitutes. That can happen.
Absolutely.
So he has no fucking idea what went on in her private life.
No clue. And you know, the Madonna / horror thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Pretty rough.
Yeah. So we got also obviously we talked about Sybil Shepherd. We've got Albert Brooks is in this. He's excellent.
Oh, Albert Brooks. I when I heard that he was in it, because I forgot, I was like, how the hell is that going to fucking play out? But he was perfect.
Oh, he was fine.
He was perfect in it.
Yeah, unaware of the threat that this guy poses, basically. I mean,
right.
I don't think anybody really got like how scary this guy was.
Yeah, he did not understand until he got into that fucking karate pose.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
I was reading that Melanie Griffith was the first choice for Iris, who's played by Jodie Foster.
Tippi Hedren.
Yeah,
Tippi
Hedren said no. Well, and who can blame her?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Jodie Foster had to go through psych counseling, a psych eval before they let her do it. Because this is so big.
And her sister actually acted as a stand-in
for
some of the more kind of graphic scenes.
Yeah.
Another what if, basically Dustin Hoffman had been originally offered the role of Travis Bickle.
I'm so glad he didn't get it.
I
love
like
Dustin
him.
Hoffman.
Oh, sure.
But that just De Niro all the way.
And
De Niro's improv of... you talking to me? Like that's all him.
All him. Basically, the direction in the script said something like Travis Bickle talks to mirror.
Talks to himself in the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of improv in this movie.
Yeah.
I didn't read up on De Niro's like schooling, but obviously he was versed in improv.
So there's two. I've heard two stories. One was from Paul Schrader, the writer. He said that De Niro got that line from a comic in New York that would use it as part of his shtick.
A comedian.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And the other story I heard is that De Niro went to a Bruce Springsteen concert. And at the concert, it was Born to Run just came out, I think. I think that's the one.
Sure.
Born to Run just came out, and playing stadiums, huge crowd.
Yeah.
They're yelling. He turns around. You talking to me? So I don't know which one of those it's from, but it's definitely definitely De Niro bringing real life into the movie.
Here's a weird little bit of trivia that I had no idea of. In a cast reunion interview, Scorsese said that Salvador Dali was staying at the hotel where the rest of the cast and the crew had been situated. And the cast and the crew would get they'd see Salvador Dali, like, oh my God, that's Salvador fucking Dali. And actually Scorsese was tempted to put it in the movie, but thought, it's not going to work tonally. Like Salvador Dali is kind of an absurdist. So
he is once he's in it, it's about Salvador Dali.
No, you can't.
Right.
Obviously, let's not do that. Let's not get starstruck and do that. But also I read that basically that despite having won an Oscar for The Godfather Part 2, he was still a relatively unfamiliar face.
De Niro?
Yeah, when it was only recognized once while driving a New York cab during his research for the film.
You know what the guy said?
What did he say?
He saw, Jesus, it is you. I saw the name and it's you.
Yeah.
Is it that hard to fucking make it in acting?
That's awesome. He drove a cab. Was it 6 months? I mean,
He was a while. He put some time in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he put some time in. And actually, Scorsese went around with him, I guess, a night or two, and rode in the front seat with him.
Scorsese has a very famous scene in this movie. Pretty awful.
Pretty hard.
Yeah, he stood in for another actor that you said got hurt.
Yeah.
Before he could play the part. And Scorsese I'll just do it just for convenience. And it's super misogynistic and racist.
He got offered parts because of that.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, he really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, he's a natural kind of presence. Like you don't, no offense to Tarantino, a great director, not a great actor. And when he shows up at his movies, you're usually bummed out. Like when he shows up in Django Unchained and does that Australian accent.
Australian accent.
Oh God, please
Jesus
don't.
Christ.
But no, Scorsese, got a natural kind of presence to him.
Yeah, totally.
I was reading that the story was partially autobiographical about Paul Schrader.
Paul Schrader, yeah.
Which is interesting. The other day my wife said, I'm sorry I don't get a chance to listen to all the podcasts. She goes, I just don't listen to a lot of podcasts. And I said, oh, first of all, I get it. Second of all, Paul Schrader's parents didn't see his movies. So the fact that Paul Schrader's parents haven't seen his movies and don't give a shit, it's okay that you haven't heard the podcast.
It's a fucking podcast.
Yeah. So
I mean, at the time when he was writing this, he had just gotten divorced.
Yeah.
He was living in his car.
Yep.
He was in the hospital for like 3 weeks and nobody came to see him.
Oh my God.
Like
very disenfranchised.
He was Travis Bickle.
Yeah.
He was living Travis Bickle's life. He was
he
isolated.
went to porno theaters.
Yeah, went to porno. Saw
developed an
tons of
obsession with
porn,
guns.
drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is very much an autobiographical movie for that poor guy, which, I mean, except for the killing,
Yeah, no kidding. I was reading that De Niro coached Jodie Foster for her scenes, focusing on helping her develop Iris as a character instead of just reading lines. And she said she cited De Niro's work as the first serious mentoring she'd ever had in her acting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of cool that he kind of helped her out a little bit. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and she's a great actor, so obviously something stuck with it. So
yeah, she really is good.
All right, what else you got? Here's an interesting thing. Dick Smith is the special effects artist for this film. And they are great special effects. I've watched how they made them, with the hand getting blown off and stuff like that.
So good.
Pretty incredible. Yeah. Very graphic. They had to tone down the blood. I think that was the one thing that kept it from being X-rated or unrated was that the blood was too bright red, I think was the deal.
If I'm not, I think I'm right on this.
Yeah.
But what he ended up doing, he locked himself in the editing room.
De Niro?
Scorsese.
I'm sorry, Scorsese.
Locked himself in the editing room with a loaded gun. And was trying to figure out how to fucking get past this X rating.
Yeah.
And
why a gun?
So there's a couple different stories behind it. One of them was like, if I don't get an R rating, I'm going to shoot the motherfucking executives. It was one of those things. He was fucking, I think, like he liked it, but like this was a rough shoot for him. And then I can't remember what the other one was, but what he ended up doing is desaturating the whole thing for that end scene. So when he gets in the cab and heads over to Iris's house, right before he shoots Harvey Keitel, all the color gets dialed back, and that's why.
So they desaturated the whole thing.
The whole thing.
I see.
And so with that, they were able to get the R rating from X.
Right. The Dick Smith we were talking about the special effects just a moment ago. Wait till I read you the list of the movies that he worked on. Requiem for a Heavyweight, Midnight Cowboy,
oh damn,
The Godfather, The Exorcist. Obviously incredible makeup effects in that.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Godfather Part 2, Marathon Man, which is hard to watch.
My fucking mouth.
Deer Hunter, Altered States, Scanners, which is incredible special effects.
Dope.
And then Death Becomes Her, which is obviously a special effects kind of feast as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know he did that too.
Yeah, so that's just a brief overview. But man, Mike Herman worked on a million really good movies. So.
That's awesome.
You were saying that how they did the improv scene for You Talking to Me.
Yeah.
Apparently that kind of worked for some of the rest of the film. The parts of Tom, Sport, Betsy, and the Wizard were supposed to be fairly underwritten. And then the casting of Albert Brooks and Harvey Keitel led to lots of improvisation. They're both good improvisers. Keitel's role was actually kind of underbaked when it started. He only had one or two lines, but he was so good that his dialogue became one of the more memorable aspects of the movie. So
one of my favorite kind of side characters is fucking the gun dealer.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember his name.
How do I know that guy?
Scorsese, I can't remember his fucking name.
No, sorry.
Scorsese filmed a documentary about that guy.
Oh, he did.
Because he is a completely interesting character. And basically in this documentary about him, I guess it's about an hour, and he was just telling stories.
Really?
One of the stories, and this I heard him telling it. Like I heard a clip from the documentary.
Sure.
Was how he was over at a friend's house. They were doing dope.
Like heroin?
Yeah. And his girlfriend was out and was in the process of dying. And the guy's he's like, they're trying to figure out, they're slapping her, pouring water, they're trying to do all the things. And the guy's all, you're going to have to give her an adrenaline shot.
This is starting to sound familiar.
Fucking stolen verbatim.
So Pulp Fiction.
It stole that whole scene from this guy's story. So
I think Tarantino would admit that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of filmmakers do that. P.T. Anderson does it all the time.
He would absolutely admit to it.
Yeah.
And it makes for great Pulp Fiction.
Oh, yes,
like
of
that
course.
whole thing was so awesome. But it's the whole bit. It's like
interesting.
She was like starting to her breathing was getting super
Yeah.
shallow, and they're like, you got to do it. And he's all, why don't you fucking do it? It's
Yeah.
your girlfriend. He's all, it's like, you can't operate on your family when you're the
Wow.
doctor. And he's all, fine.
Wow.
Took out a Sharpie, marked her heart, fucking jabbed it in there.
And it worked.
Punched it in. She sat right up.
That's crazy.
Amazing.
I didn't think that would actually work. That's cool that it actually did.
It's a real fucking thing.
Yeah, P.T. Anderson, I watched his commentary for Boogie Nights, he does great commentaries. And there's that famous scene where they're at the apartment of the drug dealer and they're going to rip him off. And the drug dealer's boyfriend is walking around throwing lit firecrackers. Anderson admitted he totally ripped that off from a French New Wave film.
Oh, yeah.
Or not French New Wave, but basically he just said, oh, yeah, I saw that in the movie and I had to use it. So
That's so good.
Just not even pretending not to, that he say that he ripped it off. So
no, that is an homage, not a ripoff.
Oh, and
right?
by the way, that happens all the time.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
Composers do it, directors do it,
Yeah.
actors do it. They all do it. So, all right, more of this movie. So I talked about Dick Smith.
What was interesting to me, like you see, there's that scene fairly early on when De Niro is confiding in Wizard, the Peter Boyle character, and he's trying to open up to him and saying he doesn't. I think he's saying he said, I don't really have any friends. I'm having troubles, but you can see the Wizard like kind of doesn't want to deal with it.
Right. It's a bit much to talk about at work.
And De Niro, that was like his last attempt at humanizing himself and getting friends, opening up.
That was him reaching out a little bit.
That was him reaching out. And he couldn't do it because he was so inept.
Is that the scene where Peter Boyle kind of gives him some terrible advice and De Niro says that's stupid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
basically says this is our lot in life. Just get over it.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Just, you got to just deal with it.
Right.
And that was, I thought that was an interesting thing that they worked in there. It was like, that was his last attempt at redemption.
Kind of flailing attempt to kind of connect with somebody.
Anybody.
Because obviously he's completely disconnected.
Yeah. It's so disconnected with everybody.
We said that Bickle's character had been in the Marines. One thing I haven't heard this talked a lot about is PTSD, right? Like whatever mental condition De Niro's character is in before he goes to Vietnam. Obviously he comes out really fucked up.
Yeah.
And nowadays we kind of understand how to treat PTSD. In the 70s, we had no fucking idea.
I mean, it was still probably referred to as shell shock at that time, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, there was one of the things I was listening to was talking about how they're all, well, I don't even know if he was in the military. He could have been lying about it, but
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, that King Kong patch, the King Kong company.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the fuck is that? As far as I can tell, it's a reference to the Viet Cong.
Okay.
So I don't know what that means, but it was some reference to the Viet Cong and having some interaction with them on some level.
Well, and you know from a very early point that he plans to carry out the assassination and then kill himself, or at least die doing it.
Right.
Suicide rates amongst PTSD victims are very high.
Yeah.
So that's pretty clear connection to me.
And then him, and we talked about this, but
Yeah.
him shaving in the mohawk was very much a reference to Vietnam vets going on either kamikaze missions or special force missions, something along those lines. They'd shave in the mohawk before they went.
Yeah, actor Victor Mignogna, a friend of Scorsese's who had a small role as a Secret Service agent, he had served in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And Scorsese noted that Mignogna had talked about certain types of soldiers going to the jungle. They'd cut their hair, and you knew there was a special situation and you stayed out of their way.
Yeah.
So, interesting choice.
And that guy, Mignotti?
Yeah, Mignogna, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, he was a stuntman for
cool.
a long time. I guess he died.
Oh, not cool.
He died. I can't remember where
Yeah.
it was, but it was later in a stunt. He actually went out doing a stunt.
And I got to say, that's, I'm not saying a stuntman is crazy about dying, but like, that's a good way to go. If you're a stuntman. I mean,
Yep.
they risk their lives every movie. They really do.
Doing what you want. One of the craziest things to me is like I was listening to that opening monologue where he's talking about the filth and the scum.
Yes,
and
the whores, the screwheads, the scum.
one of these days the rain's going to wash the scum away.
Yep.
I was like, I know this. And turns out that on Combat Rock by The Clash, the song Red Angel Dragnet it doesn't sample it, but they have somebody reading that shit verbatim.
Oh, that speech
throughout the song.
Oh,
okay. And that song was based on Taxi Driver, and the Guardian Angels in New York City.
Oh, the little vigilante group that
that would go around protecting people. And
but it feels very white hate and Nazi to me. The things that when he's talking about the people of this city, and how unclean they are, and their scum. The movie obviously is very racist, but that's after Scorsese toned down the racism
a lot.
He makes Harvey Keitel's white, not black.
Yeah, but
like as you pointed out, a lot of people in the ghetto are black, and so therefore we're seeing the scum that he's talking about as black people.
Yeah. That's definitely. I don't think that's represented in the song at all.
Right, of course not. No.
But yeah, absolutely. That monologue was definitely a racist rant of sorts.
Sure, but if you think about like the right wing's social Southern strategy that we talked about these last few weeks, obviously this movie is tapping into all that fear and hate. Right? Yeah. Every bad person in the ghetto is black. I mean, every pimp, every dealer, every hostile, violent person is black.
And the language is being used today. I mean, it's the same fucking things they're saying. The Republican Party's saying.
Yes, Trump the other day did a whole "let's ship them out of here" thing about immigrants. Yeah, really disturbing. Did you see that?
I mean, it's starting to all run together at this point.
It is. But basically the crowd shouting, "Send them back! Send them back!"
Yeah, right.
Awful. So, what did you hear? Something?
I thought I heard something. Sorry, we'll have to cut that out. Sorry.
There's a kitty in here.
Okay.
No. But I don't know what to say about the movie. It's incredible. It's incredible every time I watch it. It doesn't feel, this has got to be the 9th time I've seen it, and it never feels dull. It never feels, I'm just waiting to get to the next scene.
It doesn't feel old either.
No.
I mean, but in the context of our pod here, like, it really is a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about bad actors in the male manosphere, and I mean, Christ.
This is all of them, right?
Yes.
I mean, the only male character in there that isn't like a fucking scumbag is Albert Brooks' character, and he's a bumbling idiot, right?
Sure.
I mean, he's
really? You think he's bumbling idiot?
I do.
Let's talk about that. Which part?
The whole thing. Just watching him try to interact with Sybil Shepherd's character, watching him try to coordinate things. Is
he meant to be comic relief in that movie, do you think?
So I'm not saying that he is like a bumbling douchebag or anything like that, or inept. It's just that he is not by any means like a an actual role model.
Sure.
Everybody else in that show is pretty much actively bad.
Yeah.
And he's not actively bad, but he's just not good in
Right.
any real sense of the word.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I would say about that.
Absolutely.
But I mean, it was a great character. It was necessary for moving the whole thing forward. So I'm not saying that it didn't belong or anything like that. I'm just saying that his character, kind of a goof.
And to your point, obviously most of the people in this movie are terrible, awful people.
Yeah.
It did feel different than Raging Bull. When we rewatched that, it felt kind of a bummer to watch.
Yeah, that was
this movie's not a
depressing
bummer.
as shit.
As heavy as it is,
Yeah.
it's not a bummer in the same way that Raging Bull is.
No.
There's not really a lightness about it, but I don't know. I don't know how they do it. It's such heavy material, but it feels watchable to me.
Yeah. It's a compelling story. And Raging Bull, I guess, was compelling, but he was just such a piece of shit.
Yes.
Like, he was just like, every turn he was fucking his own life up.
Yeah, when I watched
everybody around him.
Yeah, the Jackson Pollock movie has Ed Harris playing Pollock, and he's such a drunk piece of shit, asshole, abusive person. Like, I can't wait for him to die.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
I don't know why
one.
you wanted to make a movie about him. I mean, I get Pollock is an important artist, but can we make a movie about someone, I don't know, more complex?
Yeah. So Barfly, Bukowski. Give me a Bukowski movie.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Flawed, but obviously a lot of interesting things to say.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Now, I actually kind of ripped through my notes too quickly. Did you have some other good bits?
Let me see what I got here. I got to see. The interesting thing, Ebert, in an interview with Roger Ebert, Martin Scorsese called it my feminist film because it takes macho to its logical conclusion. The better man is the man who can kill you. This movie shows that kind of thinking shows the kinds of problems some men have bouncing back and forth between their perception of women as goddesses and whores.
Okay. So when he says feminist, he means like he's putting on full horrible masculinity, and it's like under the radar, or
the logical conclusion,
basically.
Right? This is the end result of toxic masculinity.
Right.
This is always where it's going to go.
Right. And he's right. So
yeah, I mean, this is where we live today. I mean,
40 or 50 years after this movie got made, we're seeing, the fallout from all these males that are misogynist and awful. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny. De Niro, obviously, no one does seething rage better than De Niro. But God, he's so great in this movie because, there's nothing to relate to. He's a racist piece of shit, even after they tone that racism down in the script.
Yeah.
He is a awful, terrible, misogynist person. And yet De Niro somehow makes him not relatable, but watchable. And that's the thing about actors, right? They say if you hate your character, you've already failed.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm not saying De Niro loves this character, but I mean, the only way actors can do a decent job acting is to find something to relate to in the character.
Find the humanity within the character. And ultimately there is humanity. That letter that he writes home to his parents is just so fucking sad. I mean,
right.
I haven't talked to you for a year. The work I'm doing for the government, all this.
I'm sorry, I can't tell you where I live now, even though I promised last year to tell you.
Yeah, that whole thing. And then after that whole fucking scene of just absolute fucking carnage at the end, and that real quick, that ceiling pan shot was so good. Just
insane. It was a behind the scenes thing that I watched, and they showed the rig that they used to have that camera crawling through there. And it's so cool because the characters are frozen as if it's right just a still shot.
Yeah.
But the camera's moving, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's a very kind of surrealistic moment right there.
An interesting take, and I think this is completely fucking wrong, but I think it's an interesting take, is somebody was like, well, that was him dying. So everything after that was him having a dying fantasy night.
Well, that kind of makes sense.
It could.
Because people have committed crimes that end up in mental institutions and got out. But I mean, obviously, as we know, with all these shooters, very likely to be killed on the scene.
Yeah.
So you could make that argument that,
Yeah. I think
like-
it's wrong, but I thought it was an interesting argument.
Well, is he alive at the end of the movie? Are we sure of that? I mean, we see him talking to Sybil Shepherd in his cab, right? He gives her a ride.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's heaven, but I am like, to your point though, right? There's an argument to be made that he doesn't survive and the rest is all fiction.
Well, and I mean, you throw in that letter coming from Iris's parents.
Yes.
Thanking him for saving her.
That feels like
Delusional.
a fantasy to me.
It feels delusional. Like
It does.
my thought was that he didn't die, but he entered pure delusion. Everything after that was pure delusion.
Well, he certainly could have entered a mental facility, right? I mean, he
Exactly.
was insane.
Exactly. And that whole scene where he picks up Sybil Shepherd and drives away without taking her money. It's like there are a lot of things in there that totally could point to him going into an institution.
Well, and think about this. She knows everything that happened with him. So why would she even get in that cab? I mean, I mean,
Right.
she's nice to him. She's polite. She lets him take her home. She knows how dangerous he is. If I was Sybil Shepherd, I got in that cab, I'd get right back out again.
Right out. Yeah. Fucking A.
So that goes to it being a fantasy.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's what I totally, at the end, I was like, there's something about the soft lighting. Like they use a lot of soft lighting throughout that whole thing for different things.
Right.
But it seemed to ratchet up a bit for that end sequence after the carnage. So I thought, that it could totally be that. Him dying, I don't think it's him dying, just because it seems more fantasy than heaven or hell, or however you'd want to put it. Him dying.
I did like how they kind of choreographed the last kind of string of violence. It's like, in a lot of movies, the shooter, it's all super actiony and it's super tight and it's super like efficient, and there's just these tropes that are now in movies. That's a mess. That whole last 6 minutes or whatever, or 10 minutes is a real mess.
And that's how it goes down.
No, that's exactly how it goes down.
Yeah.
But I mean, someone like him who's been preparing for weeks and months, who knows how to use weapons, it still seems really incompetent to me.
Yeah.
If you look about how they kind of choreo that, they could have made that super efficient and just make him a killing machine, right? And that's what they do now in movies.
Right.
But I just kind of like that he's not even really good at the thing he's supposed to be good at.
It's so much more realistic, coming out like that, because it's fucking chaotic. I mean, that
really
kind of shit is just fucking out of control. And no matter how good you are in a shooting range, in a fucking live fire situation like that, you're not going to you're not going to be the one hit wonder, man. You're not going to fucking take him out with one shot.
Yeah. My friend who had a black belt, was in Vietnam Special Forces. One time he had a VHS tape, and this is before the internet was a thing, and it was how to disarm someone when they've got a gun and you don't. And it was fascinating, the things they tell you to do, like, obviously if you're far enough, run.
Yeah.
But like, they had approaches for 5 feet away, 10 feet away, 15 feet away. And the very premise was, it's hard to shoot somebody in real life. It's not easy. First of all, killing somebody's a thing. It's not easy to do, no matter who you are.
Right.
Second of all, like you said, pointing and aiming at a still target's one thing. To aim at a target that's rushing at you. So basically, within like 10 or 15 feet, they're like, you're a better chance of rushing the guy and taking the gun. I mean, like, now this is obviously if you're with practice and all that.
But
essentially they were saying, if you're 5-10 feet away, it's just hard to shoot somebody. Like, you have a better chance of survival if you disarm him than you do by running from that distance, right? Because you're only 5 or 10 feet away. So
and you're giving him a broad target with your back. Kind
Exactly.
Of thing. Yeah. Got it.
Pretty crazy shit, this movie. Prescient and prophetic, and really did see a lot of things coming.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
What's interesting, I also that last scene, I was like, this is very Clockwork Orange Redemption.
Oh, tell me why.
Just the way, so that final scene when Alex, when he's recovered, he gets over all that.
He goes through that mind control kind of therapy or whatever,
but he gets over it, right?
Right.
After he gets thrown out the window or whatever,
Sure.
he's like, now I'm fine. He's
Right.
all fine. He's having the fantasies again and shit like that. and it was like this kind of like horrible redemption arc. But not even redemption, but like recovery arc,
Right.
I guess. And that's kind of how I felt with him getting the letter from the parents. It was like he fucking wreaked havoc. He fucking went out there and killed like 3 people. And everything's fine.
Yeah.
You know? And again, that could be
Sure.
the delusion, the mental issues that are happening. It could be any number of things. But if it was played straight, if you take it at face value that he lived, came out of a coma and went back to driving a cab.
Yes.
It's totally a weird, fucked up recovery arc.
And if you think about it, like, I mean, we see him murder people,
Yeah.
but, you know, he's tapped into a lot of rage and fear that goes on with white people.
Right.
In America. And to a person who wasn't anywhere near that incident, he killed some scum.
Yeah. Right.
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 So there is a very much a real universe where he's lauded as a hero.
Absolutely.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
He killed the scum.
I mean, that's laying the groundwork for fucking Getz, Bernard
Yeah.
Getz. That's
A good guy with a gun.
Same thing.
Sure.
Got anything else?
I'm kind of tapped out. I loved it. I don't know what else to say about it.
I got one more thing.
Yeah.
And so there's the 2 people that are running for office. There's Palantine. I think that's his name. Palantine.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Goodwin.
Uh-huh.
Palatine's slogan is "We are the people." Goodwin's slogan is "A return to greatness."
Oh, I forgot that.
Like I saw that, I'm like, God,
Wow.
fucking damn it, dude! It's 50 years and they're saying the same fucking thing. A return to greatness.
Oh, I forgot all about that. And it's funny because the Palpatine, no, that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
That candidate's photo on some of those posters is terrifying.
It's horrible. Yeah.
Like that.
He looks like Jim Jones.
Well, and they could have picked any art for that poster, but
Yeah.
the photo itself is awful.
It's
like
horrible.
I think that's the movie telling us this is not a good person.
This is not a good person. Yeah. He totally wasn't. I mean, yeah, like he was a fucking populist candidate. But the Goodwin guy, and then the other thing, and then I got nothing after this. Opening scene, driving by a theater, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is playing.
Great. I always love that stuff.
Yeah.
Little like cross sections of culture when that happens.
Good stuff.
I don't think that was an accident.
No, absolutely not.
Maybe portends for the violence to come or something. But Tobe Hooper, baby, or Toby? Is it Tobe?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So, but that's a cool reference.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's always interesting. Well, thanks for watching the movie.
Oh, dude, pleasure. I loved it. It was fucking great. I'll watch it again.
Oh yeah, oh definitely.
Yeah.
I think literally the entire world can probably figure out who our asshole of the week is going to be.
Asshole of the week.
Our asshole of the week is Mark Robinson. So everyone knows that Mark Robinson is the Republican candidate for governor in South Carolina. I think most people know that they've unearthed his weird comments on a porn site, which of course he denies. But where he's talking about trans people and talking about all kinds of weird stuff. But
what's the name of the porn site?
Oh, is it Nude Africa?
Something like that.
Yeah, I think it's Nude Africa.
Yeah.
But apparently he was a frequent member of he would visit this porn shop all the time too.
Yeah.
The guy that worked at this porn shop said that he was in there all the time. This is not like a isolated incident. Let's put it that way.
Right. There's precedent.
Yeah. So basically, he called himself a black Nazi, which I guess we should just say Uncle Tom Mark Robinson. I mean, this guy is so bizarre. Despite a recent history of anti-transgender rhetoric, he said he enjoyed watching transgender porn. He says he called himself a perv on this website. I've got some really bad quotes from him. Are you ready for this? Trump called him Martin Luther King on steroids.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means. That's so bizarre. Now both parties are trying to distance each other. Trump and Mark Robinson are trying to distance themselves from each other. And it's
course.
like, dude, there's several examples of Trump talking about Mark Robinson and calling him the MLK on steroids. So that is not working. But here's some great quotes from Mark Robinson. Slavery's not bad. Some people need to be slaves. I wish they would bring it back. I would certainly buy a few. Oh boy. Now, this was the one I was delighted by. This took a little digging. Clarence Thomas famously once said he was the victim of high-tech lynching. Robinson said. Well, it looks like Mark Robinson is too. Now, if you identify with and cite Clarence Thomas as a model, you are in big fucking trouble. You know what I mean? Like, that's the guy you want to bring up, one of the worst people in the last 30 years. You want to talk about Clarence Thomas? Mark Robinson also said Hitler disarming millions of Jews and then marching them off to concentration camps is a bunch of hogwash. So he is a Holocaust denier. He said in 2021, he referred to transgenderism and homosexuality as filth when discussing which topics should be taught in schools. But of course, on the New to Africa, he said, I like watching transgender porn. It's hot. It takes the man out while leaving the man in. And yeah, I'm a perv. I already said that one. Sorry. But, I mean, where to begin? With Mark Robinson. Wow. Just
is he also a preacher? Am I
he's
mixing that
definitely
up?
talks like an evangelical. I don't know if he's a preacher or not, unfortunately.
Okay.
But, you know, I don't have the quote in front of me, but the other day I was watching some political television. The guy cited our hero, Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to paraphrase here. But basically, Hitchens said, you know, whenever someone makes a disgusting and rude statements like this, I just sit back and wait for them to be found on their knees in some bathroom, you know, servicing somebody. Basically, that Hitchens said this 30 years ago, that basically whenever someone comes out as so virulently homophobic or you know, anti-trans or whatever, you just know this person's got some skeletons in their closet.
Give it a minute.
Yeah. So, awful person. I hope it hurts Trump. It feels like it might. I don't know.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that could swing North Carolina.
North Carolina is not a state that Democrats win, but this certainly would help.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this does. It's funny. Did you see Lindsey Graham talking about him a couple days ago?
Was saying, I mean, essentially saying the same thing.
Well, that he has nothing to do with Trump.
Oh God.
And nothing to do with MAGA. And it's like, it is just what MTG said last week, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene says he's nothing to do with MAGA.
Give me a
and
break,
it's just so hilarious that one of these morons steps 1 inch over the line of what they consider to be decent behavior. And they got nothing to do with us. They have literally everything to do with you. You're all the same beast.
You're all the same fucking pieces of shite, dude. Yeah. God damn it.
All right. And the good news, though, is I have some quotes. I get a little cleanse our palate a little bit here.
Palate cleanser. All right.
I mean, how can we, in 2024, how do we not do a George Orwell quote?
Yeah.
The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. What else can you say about that?
Yeah. What do you add on to that?
Yeah. I mean, the truth is now essentially a vestigial remnant of an earlier era.
Yeah.
Right. There's no truth anymore in politics, apparently.
Yeah.
Stephen Fry said, if ignorance is bliss, why aren't there more happy people in the world?
I love Stephen Fry.
He's great. All right. Here's one more long one, and I'll give you a break after this. The rich invent illegal modes of expenditure. For what do they or their wives care about the law? And then one, seeing another grow rich, cease to rival him, and thus the great mass of citizens become lovers of money. And so, at last, instead of loving contention and glory, men become lovers of trade and money. They honor and look up to the rich man and make a ruler of him, and dishonor the poor man. An oligarchy, the rule of a few, leads to a city of the rich and a city of the poor, dwelling together and always plotting against one another. That's Plato.
I'm like, that's got to be a Greek.
Yeah. 2,000 years ago, still completely
still
true.
The same fucking thing. Same fucking shit.
I can't say the way like Banksy said it, but it was something like, basically, the reason all this shitty racist politics is working is it's a distraction from the truth, which is that we are pitted against the rich, not against people of color.
It's a class war.
The people of color are not the problem. People of color are with us. They are working and middle and lower class. They want the same things we want. It's the rich people that are our enemies.
It's a class war.
And we've lost. I mean, we can rebound, but the poor and middle class have lost.
For sure.
You look at poor middle class incomes over the last 30, 40 years, completely flat, and rich incomes skyrocketed.
And you've got all the ultra rich controlling all the means of communication.
I thought of you the other day. They had a New York Times columnist, and I can't remember his name, but he was on Bill Maher, and it's funny because I remember seeing this guy in years before thinking, this guy's not bad. He has interesting things to say. But he said, we know nothing about Kamala Harris's policy. Literally, she rolled out her entire policy in that last debate.
I know that. It's like, I don't understand how these people fucking can say this shit with a straight fucking face.
So he says a lot of things, I think, because he's talking about undecided voters. So he says them kind of in the voice of the undecided voter. But if an undecided voter watched that debate, they saw her domestic policy.
They saw the whole...
So it's either a lie or you're basically saying that undecided voters are stupid.
So who was it? Was it Brett Steffens? Was it fucking Rostow? That
I'll look it up. Sorry, I didn't look it up. I just thought of you the day when I saw him because I again just giving voice to the undecided. But boy, if these are the people that are undecided, we are in big fucking trouble.
Big fucking trouble, dude.
All right, you bummed out yet? Did we solve Taxi Driver?
We definitely solved Taxi Driver. We solved it's a great goddamn movie.
All right, man. I'll see you next week.
All right, rock on.
Take care.
You have been listening to The Trivium Man. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can either call us at 415-484-8841 or send us an email at thetriviumpod@gmail.com.